So we're going to be talking about conversion rate optimization today, looking at the principles that will increase your conversion rate across, ideally, the entire sales funnel. So first up, who are you and why should I care? So I don't like doing about us slides too much. I don't have a story like Bob Raines did yesterday, unfortunately. The way that I demonstrate who I am is with graphs like this, talking about how you can take your conversion rate from down there to up there. This is the kind of thing that I do day in, day out in my work. This is another graph. This is probably the most boring slide that you'll see on the entire presentation, but this made the company that this results were achieved for is a $1 billion company, and this was on their main conversion sales funnel. So these kind of techniques that we're going to be talking about can have a very, very big impact on the work that you'll do. So our goal today is to give you a process that you can adapt, that you can use yourselves for conversion rate optimization. Rand is now taking a photo of my shoes. I have yellow shoes, just like Rand. We have the beard as well. We're going to do it.
Oh my God.
That's probably the highlight of the presentation. So we're going to give you the same process that I use with my clients to get these kind of results. So I'm going to go through in detail how it works, how we get the results, and more importantly, the impact that it can have on your business. So I know a lot of the people in the room here are going to be SEOs. Some will have done a little bit of conversion rate optimization, others might not have done any, and some people, like Alex from Facebook, who you'll speak to in a little bit, have done quite a lot of conversion rate optimization. So it's a hard one to pitch, because I know there's a broad range of skills in the audience. The first thing I'd like to say on that is these kind of principles work wherever you want to take people to take action. So you can apply these principles to the link building requests that you do. You can apply them to getting more budget for your SEO activities, as well as the fact that the techniques we're going to be looking at will allow you to get more budget for SEO, PPC, to deliver more traffic to your website. So because there's a fair range of skills in the audience, if you have any questions as we go, if you want me to go into more detail or to explain something a little bit simply, then just let me know. So use the international sign for I have a question and let me know. This is the second best part of the presentation. So we're going to start from first principles in terms of what is the conversion rate. I'm not going to go quite that basic actually, but how it will affect your business. So on the left we have visitors who come to your website and we turn them into money. So the left-hand process is SEO, PPC, banner advertising, and on the right-hand side we have conversion rate optimization. The first point I'd like to emphasize is that we're not just talking about landing page optimization. So conversion rate optimization will cover the entire process. So we've got email marketing here, which I should probably stop standing in the way of my slides. We've got email marketing on the right. We've got banner advertising, the internal pages on your website. All of these will contribute to your conversion rate. So with that in mind, conversion optimization will cover the entire sales funnel. We're not just looking at individual landing pages. So to give you an example of that, the finance client whose growth we saw a little bit earlier on, for the first 3 months of working together, the entire work that we did was focused on their email marketing. We didn't even touch the website. Okay, we've now got a slightly more advanced sales funnel that we're going to talk about. If we go from the left to the right, we can see how the traffic will go to your landing page. From the landing page, people will go to a registration page. Ideally, they'll sign up for the free trial. From that, we'll turn them into an actual user of the software or the product that we're selling. And then ideally, some of those people will become evangelists. So they're going to share the services that we do with their friends as well. So this is a relatively basic sales funnel that we're going to look at in terms of how conversion optimization can affect your business. The goal here is to find what your lifetime customer value is. So we're looking to find out what can we spend per visitor. And if we know what every customer is going to be worth and we know how many visitors turn into customers, we can work all of that out. So the goal here is to find out the lifetime customer value and then work backwards through the sales funnel. So with that in mind, we can apply a little bit of data to this. So again, starting from the left-hand side, if we say that 100 visitors come to our page, of whom 80 of those are going to get to the registration page, and then 20 of those sign up, of which 5 will continue after the free trial and 1 will become an evangelist, then this is a basic kind of sales funnel that we can use. We're now going to apply a fairly simple model to this in terms of these are the conversion rates associated with the entire sales funnel. It's all pretty simple. But this is where it gets a little bit more complicated, and this is what I wanted to talk about. So on the left-hand side here, we've got the amount that we're spending to get those visitors. So if we say it's a $2 CPC campaign, then we're spending around $200 to get these visitors. And on the other side, if each of those visitors, if each of the customers, is worth $50, then we're going to make $250 for the initial users, as well as the evangelist who refers, say, 4 other users, so we'll make a further $200. So if we put all of this information together, we can kind of work out what we can spend to get the traffic to begin with. So we've spent $200, we take another $450, so that means that we end up with a profit of $250. And this is the most important point. Every free trial that we have to the website is going to be worth $22.50 or thereabouts. This is the key figure because that will affect what we do in the conversion rate optimization process. Now let's see what impact conversion rate optimization will have on this. So instead of, I'm going to completely stand out of the way now. Instead of having a 25% conversion rate from free trial to user, if we double that to 50%, then we're now going to see what kind of impact that will have on sales and traffic and the entire business, because it's not quite as simple as it looks. I should add at this point, doubling your conversion rate isn't that hard. There have been plenty of companies, even with revenues of tens of millions of dollars, whose conversion rates we've doubled across the entire business. So this is perfectly possible. So if we double the conversion rate here, we're just focusing on one small part of the entire sales funnel, then we still have the same spend on the left-hand side. We're still spending $200, but now we're making $500 from the first round of users, plus an additional $400 from the referrals. This is all going to come together in a minute. So because we're making so much more money from the same traffic, from the same spend, it means that we're creating a barrier to entry. We can increase the market share. Okay, I think this is one of the last tables that we've got, and then we're going to get into some pretty pictures in a minute. So these are some of the keywords that we could be targeting with the website. Keyword 1 is the example that we were just looking at. So we've got the old sales funnel at the top and the new sales funnel immediately below that. So on the right, you can see there's a $250 profit, and beneath that is a $700 profit. Most importantly, if you double your conversion rate, that unlocks the potential to target other keywords in your sector. So keyword 2 is very, very important. If we look at the row for the old sales funnel with the lower conversion rate, we can see on the right-hand column that it's not profitable at all. We're going to be losing money if we bid on that keyword. But when we improve the sales funnel, when we improve the conversion rate, we unlock the ability to tap into that new keyword to get a lot more customers. And that means that we've done more than just double the conversion rate. Because when we apply this across all profitable keywords and we look at the data from the 2 sales funnels, on the left, we were making $250 per day, but on the right, we're now making $1,000 simply because we can bid on the extra keyword. So that means by doubling the conversion rate at one small point of the sales funnel, we've quadrupled the profit. And most importantly, we've still got keyword 3 right at the bottom here that we can still target. So at the moment, neither sales funnel is going to be profitable on that keyword. But as you can see in the example here, that's getting around 300 clicks per day. So that's going to be, it's got the same volume of traffic as the other 2 keywords put together. And it's not going to take much more optimization of the sales funnel to make this profitable. So what this means is that it allows you to increase your market share very, very rapidly in a very short space of time. So let's suppose that we keep those 2 sales funnels, but your competitor has the first one that we looked at, and you've got the new, shiny, increased conversion rate sales funnel. So over the course of the 6 months, you're going to be 4 times more profitable than the competition. You'll also have double the number of users, and that's going to massively unlock the potential to expand the size of your company. Because when we're working on the conversion rate, when we're unlocking more profit from the same advertising spend, it means that we can then get more sales. And when we get more sales, as we just saw, we can get more traffic as well. So we can spend the money on PPC, we can spend it on SEO, so you can get more budget for link building, for developing the website, for developing content. We can also spend it on banner advertising and even offline advertising too. And the important thing here is when you get more traffic, that allows you to test even quicker as well. So when you get more traffic, you can test faster, you can test more variations. It's easier to detect the impact of the differences that you're testing. So putting this all together means that it's a self-perpetuating cycle. So the more you increase your conversion rate, the more profit you get, the more traffic you get, which means that you can increase your conversion rate even further. When you have this advantage, it will rapidly increase your market share because it continues to run. As long as you are keeping on spinning the cycle, you can increase your market share. And like I said, we're only going to be working on one part of the sales funnel here. So this is just taking one example. We've got the entire sales funnel. We could work on any of these points to increase the conversion rate, and to increase the amount of revenue that we're making. So now we're going to talk about how we can double the conversion rate. It's a relatively simple process. The sad part is that a lot of people misunderstand how you do conversion rate optimization. There's a lot of crap that's talked about it in terms of people who think it comes down to just making little changes here and there and hoping that somehow it will magically affect your conversion rate. The process that we're going to look at today is designed to give you the biggest increases as quickly as possible. So simply put, conversion rate optimization is finding out why people aren't converting and then fixing it. So we're not going to be talking about changing your buttons from red to green or vice versa. This kind of stuff can work, as we saw in the presentation yesterday, but it's not something that I'd recommend for probably 9 out of 10 or even 99 out of 100 people in the room. This kind of stuff, you'll do a test, it will last for maybe 2 or 3 weeks, you won't have any results by the end of it, and it will kind of peter out, and that could be the end of your conversion rate optimization campaign. I wouldn't recommend starting with this kind of test. Instead, what we're going to do is find out why people aren't converting and then fixing it. If you change your button from red to green, you're saying, I think people aren't converting on my website because I use a slightly different color. The more likely explanation is they're not converting because they don't trust you, they don't understand the benefits of your product, of your brand, they find it hard to complete your checkout. There are plenty of reasons, and it will take us a long time to get to a point where the only thing stopping people converting is the color of our buttons. So this is the process that we're going to be using to increase conversion rates. Again, it's a cycle. I'm a big fan of cycles because all of these should be self-perpetuating. First up, we're going to take the Analyse segment. This is answering that question, why people aren't converting on our website. The first thing to do is to map out the sales funnel. So we used an example of this earlier, a fairly basic sales funnel. I strongly recommend that everyone in the room should have a large piece of paper with this mapped out on it, because if you can go into a lot of detail on it, if you can add in the figures and the percentages at every step, you'll find out where you're losing visitors, where people are dropping off, and that will help you work out where you should be targeting your work. So plenty of people, when they start optimizing, they go in for the homepage, they think, well, that's getting a ton of traffic, it's going to have the biggest impact. But in fact, if you run an e-commerce website, you're likely to see a bigger impact quicker if you work on the cart or the checkout. Also, when you map out your sales funnel, you'll quickly see what's missing. So, for example, you might want to add more email marketing strategies to that as you saw in the example earlier, to get people to be engaged with your brand and with your product, to turn them from a free trial into an active customer. So this is something that SEO Moz do very, very well, using email marketing to achieve exactly that. And when you map out your sales funnel, you'll see what's missing. Also, adding new elements like email marketing can be very effective to bridge gaps in your sales funnel. So if, for example, a lot of people come to your website to do research, and then they come back, say, a week later to purchase, the likelihood is that there will be 100 other people who don't come back because, for one reason or another, they get distracted, they go to a competitor, they don't come back to convert, which is why companies like Kayak do techniques like this. They encourage you to give them your email address so that you're much more likely to come back. They can email you. You've got that visual reminder in your inbox to come back to Kayak when you are ready to purchase. And also, when you do work out your entire sales funnel, you might be able to see what you should take away as well as what you should add. So this example comes from Posterous. It's an old screenshot, so they're not doing this anymore, but it's a perfect example of how you can take one element of your sales funnel away to increase the conversion rate. So in their case, they removed the need to create an account. They made it very, very straightforward to do that just by emailing your files to them. The second part of the Analyse step is finding out why your visitors aren't converting. And this is a little bit more complex, but there are ways to do it, and it is made a lot easier with tools. So first up, there are two main reasons why people aren't converting. Either they don't want to, which is a problem with persuasion. So they don't understand what your product does, why it will help them, why it's better than the competition, whether your site is trustworthy. Alongside that, alongside persuasion problems, you've also got usability problems. So they can't buy, they can't complete the checkout, they're having problems with navigating the website. These are slightly more general, but they're just as important as problems with persuasion. So as I said, tools will make your life easier. There are plenty of tools that will help you understand your visitors, understand why they're not persuaded to convert or why they can't convert, where the bugs are on your site, and what's stopping them converting. So on the left here, we've got tools like Survey Gizmo and SurveyMonkey. These will show you, well, basically they'll allow you to survey your visitors. More importantly, you can survey your customers. So on the screen here, we've got the question, what would have stopped you buying? This is my favorite question that I ask customers of my clients. So if someone makes a purchase, then a few days after we say, would you mind filling out this short survey? And one of those questions is, if there's one thing that would have stopped you buying from us, what would it be? And that's a great way to find out what the objections are, what the stumbling blocks are. And it's normally something that you hadn't thought of before. Alongside the survey tools, we've got tools like Crazy Egg. Crazy Egg is very, very good for heat mapping. And in particular, it will show you where people are clicking on your website that aren't links. So if they're clicking on something that says free delivery or guarantee, then the likelihood is they're looking for more information on that particular point. But if it's inactive, then they won't be able to find it. So that can be a very, very easy source of information for ideas for new parts to target. And finally, we've got usability tests. So there are very, very simple tools like usertesting.com. If you haven't heard of it, and this is the one takeaway, well, it's not the one takeaway tip, but it's one of the biggest takeaway tips from the presentation. Write down usertesting.com, spend about $100 getting 3 tests on your website. They're remote usability tests, so people will come, they'll use your website, and they'll record it, and they'll send it back to you. It is the best way to see how people use your website, to see it through their eyes. And it's the best source of information like that you can get, and the best value as well. Alternatives to user testing are to go with tools like Silverback, which allows you to do that, but face-to-face with someone. So they can use your laptop, they can navigate your website, and it will record the entire screen. It will record their facial expressions and what they're talking about as well. Or we've also got the Starbucks logo here, or you can go to Starbucks, take your laptop, and then ask someone there, offer to buy them their coffee, and ask them to use your website. It works well if you've got a product that most people would use. If you deal in, like one of my clients sells gold bullion online, it's a slightly harder market to find potential customers for. They don't always go to Starbucks. So putting all of that together, we now know where we should be targeting, we know why people aren't converting, and now we need to brainstorm how we can fix this. So we looked at the 2 different types of problems. One was a persuasion problem, the other was usability. We're going to start with persuasion, namely, just to use an example, visitors don't understand why they should buy from us. This is a really common problem that a lot of companies have. They tend not to be too good at explaining in simple terms why you should use them as opposed to a competitor. So normally what happens when you have a problem like this is someone comes along and they create some fairly bland statements like this. excuse me, they put some bullets on the website that say, you know, we're the biggest company, we've got the best prices, we've got quick delivery and great customer service. But they don't go into any more detail than that. Plenty of websites do this, they fall into this trap, but they don't go into any detail, and as a result, they're missing out on a huge amount of conversions. We're going to take an example and work it through in terms of how you can develop this. So this was taken from a client of mine back in the UK. They said on their website, we're one of the biggest bathroom companies in the UK, which is okay as a statement, as in big company, not a big bath, I should point out. This is a fairly vague statement. It doesn't have any credibility. It doesn't have much authority. So it's okay, but it could be great. So the way that we developed this was to get into specifics in terms of when you're applying for a job on your CV, you don't talk in general terms. You talk in the numbers. You go into as much detail as possible, and that's exactly what we're trying to do here. So the way that we developed this was by asking, so what? How can we prove that we're a trustworthy company, that we're one of the biggest companies, that we've got some amazing customers? And this was a statement that we came up with. We've supplied over 100,000 bars, showers, toilets, and basins across the UK, including the House of Commons. The House of Commons being the UK Parliament. So essentially, if it's good enough for our Prime Minister, it's going to be good enough for most of our customers as well. By creating a statement like this, we're doing something that's very specific, very authoritative, and it's also believable as well. And using some of the tools that we saw earlier, we found people that were commenting on that specific statement saying, I wasn't going to purchase, but then ... they saw a comment like this, and that persuaded them. So this can have a direct impact on your business. In fact, this one example added around 45% to this company's entire revenue, and this is an online company doing £3 million, so $5 million per year. So this was worth a couple of $1 million to them. The second problem we're going to look at is usability in terms of what's stopping people achieving certain goals on your website. So this is another one taken from a UK travel company this time. The problem that they had was they had some travel insurance. This is how a lot of travel companies tend to make their money, but no one was taking them up on it. Just a quick show of hands. Does anyone know Ryanair in the room? Okay, perfect. More than I was expecting. If you don't know them, yeah, Gianluca is not too happy with them. They are renowned for their cheap prices and their even cheaper support. They are not too friendly as a company. It is like literally being herded like cattle. And their website is even nastier. So they had a problem, which is they wanted more people to take out their travel insurance, but no one was doing that. So this is their booking form. We're going to zoom in into a little bit more detail. At the top here, you can see that people fill out their name, how many bags or suitcases they have, their country of residence. But if you look in more detail, if you stop yourself and actually read the text alongside these fields, as opposed to doing it on autopilot, you'll notice the text just to the left of the red box that says, buy AXA travel insurance, and then please select your country. So what you're doing by using that drop-down box to select your country, which is pretty understandable on a travel website, you're signing up for their travel insurance. It's a pretty sneaky, pretty underhand tactic. And it actually gets even worse because the text underneath that says, if you don't want to buy travel insurance, select no travel insurance in the drop-down menu. Aside from the fact that most of their customers probably don't know what a drop-down menu is, they also do this in a really sneaky way as well. Because when you look on the drop-down, apparently no travel insurance exists somewhere on the border between Latvia and Lithuania. So I wanted to emphasize, I don't recommend doing stuff like this, but it is a very, very interesting example of how people can affect usability and actually, I guess, turn it into a black hat form of conversion rate optimization. So finally, we know what's going wrong, we know where to fix it, we've got some ideas on what we can do. The next problem is, where do we start? So how do we prioritize these ideas that we've got? And often, this is the biggest problem that companies face. They'll have a list of 101 things to do, but they don't know where to start. So you can solve this pretty simply. First up, just make a list of all of the ideas, all of the things that you want to do on your website that you think will increase the conversion rate based on what we just spoke about. So I should add, actually, don't skip the rest and start with this. You have to do the research, you have to know what's going wrong, where the problems are before you can fix it. So come up with a list of the problems, and then, well, that worked well. Those were meant to be stars. It kind of works, I guess, as it is. When you've got these reasons, you just need to grade them according to, one, how easy they are to implement, and two, what kind of impact they're likely to have. So one's like creating a welcome autoresponder, so a new email sequence, is going to be relatively easy to implement, and it's going to have a medium impact. Whereas rewriting the benefits of your homepage, all you have to do is create some new text. It's going to be super simple to develop, and it could have a fairly good impact as well. So when you put all of that together, you can kind of get a rough idea of which of these changes are going to have the biggest impact most quickly. And so you just start with them, and you keep on working your way through the list. It's all pretty simple so far. It gets a little bit more complex when we get into the design phase. One question a lot of people ask is, do we do big tests or small tests? So the call to action, the red-green button that we saw earlier, I would define that as about as small as you can get, apart from testing whether a comma makes any difference on your landing page copy. It's pretty much as small as you're likely to get, whereas big tests are throwing out your old landing page and trying a completely new design, which is something that SCMOs make a big habit of. Them progressing in leaps and bounds. So in terms of where to start with your business, it's always good to go back to the numbers. So this tool on the screen at the moment is from a company called Visual Website Optimizer. They make a tool that just very, very simply tells you how long a test is going to take to run. So you add some basic information like what your conversion rate is at the moment, how much traffic you're getting, how many variations you're testing, and what kind of impact it's likely to have on the conversion rate. And then it will quickly tell you how long the test is going to run to be statistically significant. So if you do that and the number turns out to be like 400 days, you'll know that's probably not going to be a good test to run. If it's going to be 10, 15, 20 days, that's where you need to be aiming. So this is why, for most people, you should be aiming to do big tests, because you'll get the data quicker, you'll progress much faster, and as we saw at the start, when you progress faster, that will accelerate by its own accord, and so you'll get that advantage on your competition. A company like Google can get away with doing very, very granular tests, so they can test 41 different shades of blue for their links on their search results. In fact, Bing did this as well, and according to them, it was worth about $80 million, that slightly different shade of blue that they use. So this kind of stuff can have an impact, but again, I would save these small tests, unless you're a company like Google, Bing, Facebook, save these kind of tests till when you've got the big stuff out of the way first. It's really important not to limit your tests to what you've already got. So with a lot of companies, you see them changing within their existing infrastructure. So they'll tweak their headline, they'll tweak their images, they'll tweak the copy or the button. But ultimately, sometimes it pays to just completely throw all of that out and start again. So using an example from Facebook, this is how their deactivation screen used to look. So there are ways that if you wanted to be granular, you could develop this. You can say, well, let's come up with a new headline because are you sure you want to deactivate your account? It's not very persuasive. It doesn't give you any reason to stay. Likewise, the deactivate option is the default option. And as most people tend to gravitate towards the default, maybe we should make cancel the default option instead. And while we're at it, cancel isn't a particularly strong word to use, so perhaps we can use slightly different copy instead, like keep my Facebook account. So you could do all of that, or you could just come up with a completely new page. So lose the old infrastructure and show all of the people who are going to be so sad that you've quit Facebook. In fact, it's a little bit worse in that you also have to choose why you're leaving. So they give you a choice of 8, 9 different reasons as to why you want to quit Facebook, and that's a required step. So you've got to read through each one of those to find the one that's going to be relevant to you, or just click any old one. Basically, they're guilt-tripping you into staying with Facebook, and it works very, very well. So changes like this have made 1 million people stay in the Facebook prison camp. And Alex is going to be up in a little bit talking about Facebook in more detail, so I better not say any more. So to answer the question, do you do big tests or small tests? Innovate with the big tests. So these are the ones that you should be doing first. Try to take big leaps forward, and then when you really run out of ideas, then you can do the little tests. In the 5, 6, 7 years I've been doing conversion rate optimization, I've very, very rarely had to do the small tests because there's always going to be more opportunity to fix the really big problems. Ultimately, very few people are going to be abandoning your website because they didn't like the color of your add to basket buttons. There's always going to be some bigger problem to fix. And last up in the test phase, we need to get ready to analyze the data before you start the test. So that means a couple of things. First up, take a screenshot of the new variations that you're going to be testing. So the last thing you want to do is do a whole conversion rate optimization plan, and then 12 months down the line, realize that you can't actually remember what you tested to start with and what kind of impact it had. So take screenshots, be very methodical about how you ordered the tests. And while you're at it, set up tools like Crazy Egg for heat mapping. Make sure you're going to get this data, because when you see that one page increase the conversion rate, you'll want to know why it did that. What kind of difference did it have? Were people more engaged with a particular element on it? So before you start the test, make sure that you're ready to analyze it later on. And now we can move on to the test phase. So the first thing that people often ask me at presentations like this is, what kind of tool do you use to do the split testing itself? This is the answer. It's a tool called Visual Website Optimizer. If you haven't used it before, it makes split testing very, very simple. It's the least dev-heavy tool there is, and often getting tests done is the biggest holdup can be development time. So tools like this make it very simple to do tests rapidly. When you're running the test, if you get a strong result, if it increases the conversion rate, you should then apply the same principles throughout the sales funnel. So again, this is another cycle. When you increase the conversion rate in one place, often that same principle will work across the entire sales funnel. So to use an example, it might be a little hard to see at the bottom here. There's a green bar that says our customers saved 60% off the high street. So compared to the brands that you'll see downtown, these guys are 60% cheaper. When you analyze which elements increase the conversion rate, you can then apply them to the rest of the funnel. So this is taken from the homepage, but they've also applied it in the shopping basket as well. So rather than just showing the price, they've picked out some big competitors that every visitor to the website will know. So they're emphasizing the price saving throughout the sales funnel. And what that means is when you're doing conversion optimization, if you get an increase here, you can often get it in multiple points. So we're going to have a dramatic effect on the conversion rate. But sometimes the test won't succeed. And this happens actually quite a lot. So I'd say 2/3 of the tests that I run with clients aren't successful. And that's absolutely nothing to be ashamed of. It means that you can still learn from the ones that fail. So this is a real life example from a client of mine. We were testing a fairly controversial element on their website. And after a couple of weeks, it wasn't looking too strong, so it was lowering the conversion rate. It wasn't quite statistically significant, but it wasn't looking like it was going to pick up anytime soon. So because we were testing a controversial element, we came up with new ways to develop this. We analyzed, what have we changed, and how can we flip that on its head? How can we go to the other extreme? And so we did that, and then we applied that to the same page and turned it into a 70% lift. And this was the same company, actually, that we saw earlier, who were doing around $5 million per year in sales. And this was applied across the entire sales funnel. So again, this was a 70% lift on $5 million. So changes like this can have a huge impact on the company. So ultimately, the biggest failure is not testing. If there's one takeaway, apart from doing usability testing, it's to start split testing. Even if that does mean just doing little tests to begin with, but I'd strongly recommend starting with as big tests as you can manage. So here's the entire cycle. It's very, very simple. It is cyclical as well. And I think that about wraps us up.